If you care about real, tested land knowledge and the long memory of farming history, subscribe to Farm Logic right now, because what you're about to hear isn't a trendy garden hack. It's a soil practice rooted in necessity, scarcity and old-world logic that quietly shaped survival farming long before modern inputs existed. When I buried plain cardboard in my soil, I expected a small improvement at best. What happened instead forced me to rethink how past farmers managed land when nothing could be wasted and every harvest mattered. This experiment began as a historical curiosity, not a gimmick. Across medieval Europe, wartime farms, monastery gardens and frontier homesteads, organic refuse was never discarded. Paper, parchment scraps, fibre mats, straw wrappings and packaging materials made from plant pulp were returned to the ground. Modern cardboard is simply compressed plant fibre, stripped of ink and plastic when chosen correctly. I wanted to test whether this forgotten logic still worked in depleted modern soil, not in theory, but in practice. The soil I worked with reflected a problem both ancient and modern. The ground was compacted, dry beneath the surface and biologically quiet. This is the same condition described in early agricultural texts where land had been overworked or stripped of forest cover. Historical farmers lacked fertilizers as we know them, so they rebuilt soil structure using layers. Cardboard offered a modern stand-in for those fibrous barriers. I buried it shallow, just below the topsoil, where roots would eventually reach, but microbes already lived. What happened in the first 2 weeks contradicted modern expectations. Instead of the soil becoming waterlogged or stagnant, moisture stabilized. The cardboard absorbed excess water during heavy rains and slowly released it during dry days. Medieval farmers understood this principle instinctively. They layered fibre to regulate moisture, not to block it. If you try this today, lay soaked cardboard flat, overlap edges slightly and cover it with soil. Do not shred it. Intact sheets slow decomposition just enough to work as a buffer. The biological response came next, and it was impossible to ignore. Earthworms appeared where none had been seen for years. Fungal threads formed beneath the cardboard, binding soil particles together. This mirrors historical accounts of living soil, long before microscopes confirmed microbial networks. The cardboard fed fungi first, then bacteria, then higher organisms. For survival growers, this matters. A soil that feeds itself reduces dependency on imported inputs. Weed pressure dropped dramatically without chemicals or constant labour. Cardboard blocked light long enough to interrupt weed cycles, but decomposed before becoming a permanent barrier. To apply this today, clear tall weeds, lay cardboard directly on the soil, wet it thoroughly and cover lightly. You know, crops planted nearby will benefit without competition. And by the second month, root behaviour changed in a measurable way. Plants sent roots deeper and laterally instead of staying shallow. The soil held together when dug, forming crumbly aggregates instead of dust. This really is the hallmark of regenerated soil described in early agrarian manuals. For survivalists, deeper roots mean resilience during drought and crop failure years. Cardboard didn't fertilize the soil. It rebuilt its architecture, which is far more important long-term. One unexpected result was soil temperature regulation. The buried fibre insulated the ground, keeping it cooler during heat spikes and, warmer at night. Historical cold-frame beds often relied on layered organic matter for this reason. There are mistakes that history warns us not to repeat. Never use glossy waxed or heavily dyed cardboard. Past farmers, they avoided treated fibres instinctively because they poisoned soil life. And, always remember to remove tape and labels. Keep layers shallow, too. This is a soil amendment, not a landfill. The goal is controlled decay, not burial. What shocked me most was how familiar this system felt once it worked. It didn't behave like a modern trick. It behaved honestly like an old rule returning to relevance. Fibre returns to soil. Soil feeds life. Life stabilizes land. That cycle never changed, really. We just, forgot it. If you want more grounded, historically rooted farming logic that actually works under pressure, subscribe to Farm Logic and share this with someone who still believes soil health starts in a bottle. This knowledge survived centuries because it worked, and now you've seen why.